Today, I'd like to invite you to another webinar. Today, we're going to discuss discipline, duty, and data. Today, I have my guest speakers, Jeff Dean, former Marine. He's the VP of Global and Intel of Security. And then I also have Martin Feery, who is our Senior Manager of Tactical and Global Intel. Gentlemen, would you like to give me a little bit of information about your background and tell me more?
Absolutely. I'll start it off. As noted, I am the VP of Global Security and Intelligence Operations at AlertMedia. Prior to coming to AlertMedia, I spent about 35 years in corporate security doing various physical security, business continuity, disaster recovery, all the different elements that would relate to security operations. And did start my career off in the Marine Corps, where I was a counterintelligence officer, which really helped me prepare for the duties of different security disciplines. Martin?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, as Jeff said, my name is Martin Feery. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I did 5 years, kind of stationed all over the place, from the East Coast to West Coast, as an intelligence analyst. After transitioning out of the military, I joined AlertMedia. This is my first civilian career, I would say, aside from like just the normal retail jobs before, and when you're in college and high school and stuff. So I've been working with the team now for about 5 years at AlertMedia, in the tactical threat intelligence section. So really diving deep into things that threaten companies when it comes to secure personnel safety, locations, and just natural disasters and things that might affect business operations.
Yeah, thanks guys for joining us. And I just want to say to the base here that one of the things that we talk about so often in business continuity and in our mentorship sessions is all the tools that are available across the industries. We have different tools in business continuity, from fusion risk management to help us manage our business impact analysis and our business continuity plans, but also crisis communication. That might be another company like Everbridge or maybe even AlertMedia. And so I invited these folks on here to help you understand what some of these tools are and how you guys can leverage them once you're in the industry, but also how to understand to speak to them while you're in an interview process, so that if you find a company that already has one of these tools, you can better speak to that. And so without further ado, I'd like to give you guys the floor.
Hey, thank you. Hey, before we get going and dive into a little bit about what exactly AlertMedia does and how the business continuity background you have could fit nicely in with our operations, Martin, would you just briefly share how you transitioned from the Marine Corps into AlertMedia, especially noting that this was your first, we'll call it your real job after the military, but also Martin was part of our initial group of analysts when we first started up having the threat intelligence program. So Martin, could you just briefly tell us about that transition?
Yeah, of course. So when I decided to transition out of the military, it was a very nerve-wracking experience, very tough. I initially decided that I was going to transition out of the military in early 2020. I actually went through my transition readiness seminar in March, and 2 weeks later, we went into lockdown from COVID. So I was a bit nervous, a bit taken aback by that. So that was just another challenge. But going from an environment where everything is structured, there's built-in camaraderie into the everyday life of the military. I didn't really know how I was going to transition a lot of those skill sets and that type of just like the history that I had building my career into a career that would be applicable in the private sector, especially when also dealing with the changing landscape of going from in-person work to then possibly having to do remote work as well. So I kind of had two questions that I needed to ask myself, which was, how do I explain what I do and make it make sense to a hiring manager? And then also, what is a job title that for somebody that does the type of work that I do? Because when I initially started my search, it was a lot of cybersecurity analysts, or maybe it's like retail security support for making sure that I forget what it's called, like product, like just to make sure that people don't steal from the store. I'm blanking on what that title is, but so I didn't really know what would apply specifically to my skill set. And I started thinking about what it was that I did in the military, a lot of gathering data, assessing risk, um, prioritizing how we should go about responding to such risks, and making decisions under pressure. And so I started looking, took that criteria, plugged it into Google, and I got business continuity, crisis management, security operations. And these were all terms that obviously I knew security operations, but business continuity, crisis management, these weren't things I would have ever considered being an Intel analyst as something I'd be able to do. But after I realized a lot of my skills applied to those, I started building in the search criteria in job boards and things of that nature. And that led me to AlertMedia, where I started, as Jeff said, my first real job as in the private sector as an intelligence analyst on the tactical team. I helped stand up the team there. We really kind of had a whiteboard that was completely clear of what we wanted to do. We kind of built the team collaboratively, and it's been a great experience ever since. And I had to take a lot of those principles that were instilled within us in the military, a lot of the leadership principles, leadership traits, and kind of um, take those and use them as like for, I guess, fuel, for lack of a better term, like fuel to drive myself forward and advance, and always apply myself to the next position. And with that, I worked my way up the ladder and finally um, got to where I am now as a senior manager on the tactical team in the global, or in the tactical section of the global intelligence team. Um, I get to work with a lot of talented people, and I realized a lot of, like I was saying, there's a lot of alignment between the experience, the principles, and just the general things that we learn in the military, and just this type of work, specifically in the security operations and business continuity sector. Um, so yeah, I hope that kind of gives a brief outline, kind of explains my experience, and with that, I guess I'll hand it back to you there, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Martin.
Yep.
Yeah, just looking at what we do at AlertMedia and how backgrounds in business continuity, emergency management, security really fit into what it is we provide our customers. This is basically the platform that we provide. We say that our biggest asset here is we can manage risk and response from one platform. All of these things that we provide customers, they can get out of one platform, one, or as we say, one pane of glass. But if you look at the plan, identify, assess, communicate, resolve, and recover, that's your emergency management process. And I have to say, having spent 30, 35 years in the corporate world, one of the most important teams that I always built out that was within my team was the business continuity teams, because things are going to happen, and how quickly the company can respond to those things and get back to providing the level of services that customers are expecting is one of the most important aspects of a program. And we would sell that program to potential customers in that how resilient we were, and how quickly how they could count on us to provide services no matter what type of an event event was occurring. So business continuity is that important in the business world, because it's about continuing to provide service. So when you look at the platform that we have, as Martin stated, we're part of the threat intelligence team and TRM, threat risk management team. We have the platform itself that folks use to monitor all the threat information that we put out. Then they can take that threat information, if they feel that information that they're receiving is going to impact any of their assets, whether it's their fixed assets or their people, and they send out emergency communications. So communicating alerts is very important. So it's really about understanding what's going on globally and being able to communicate that out to the right people in your organization, so they can either avoid the risk, if it's to individuals, or if it's to company assets, they can start implementing those business continuity plans or other crisis response plans to help mitigate those risks as quickly as possible. That's where it comes into the incident response. So you communicate it out, and then you start responding to that, to what was communicated and what the threat was that you identified. Looking specifically at the global intelligence team, we are a team right now. We have 52 analysts that are spread out across the globe. We do monitor everything that's going on 24/7, and we monitor thousands of sources of information. We take raw information. Our analysts do their work to validate that information. We say that we provide human vetted intelligence. Everything that we put out to our customers has been vetted by a human analyst to ensure the validity of that information before it goes out. So what we do is we take raw information and we produce actionable intelligence. So when customers get that information, they know this is what's occurring and they can take action to mitigate the risk. If you look over, this is where we pull our analysts from. Of course, Martin and I always put the military stuff on the top line, so we emphasize that. But a good portion of our team does come from the different military and government services. What we don't have up there is we've recently added individuals that served in the Canadian Navy and the Irish Army and the Indian Army. So we have pulled in those resources from different military organizations from around the world. But if you look at all the other ones that we pull from, all of the security operations centers, but also we pull in talent from different other areas. So we've got a great pool of individuals that brings different perspectives to our intelligence operations. How our team is structured is we break it down into 4 elements. Martin, as he noted, he works in the tactical intelligence section. The tactical intelligence is the largest section of our team, and what they do is they put out kinetic alerts, what in the military we would call spot reports. It's what's happening right now. We've got to get that information out so you can avoid any potential impacts to that. This is our analysts are seeing new feeds coming in approximately every 3 seconds. There's new information coming in that they have to sift through to determine is what I'm seeing, could it adversely affect any type of business operations or the safety of and security of any individuals? And they will put those out as kinetic alerts. Then we have our strategic team. These are more of the situational reports that we produce. This is things that are planned, ongoing, or things that you can look at that may be going as it's ongoing or it's in the future, so you can plan. Our customers can plan how to prepare for those types of things. Biggest thing for us is organized demonstrations. As you probably see in the news, there's demonstrations that are happening everywhere, and we constantly are reporting on where these demonstrations are occurring, who are the groups that are going to be demonstrating, what are their modus operandi, things that our customers need to prepare for those. Then we have our travel security program. We have travel risk alerts for every country in the world and dozens of major cities as well. And this program is something that really is growing with us tremendously as we got through the COVID era. Business travel now is picked up and it's more than it's ever been. So the travel security program is very important. And then we actually have a weather team on our global intelligence team. These are trained and schooled meteorologists, and they not only forecast what's going to happen globally for weather, but what differentiates them is they provide customers what is the potential impact of the events that they're going to see occur. Very important when they're reporting on hurricanes. Not only the hurricane is coming, but this is the track that it's going to take. These are the businesses, the infrastructure that is in the path of it. This is the rivers that we're looking at that are going to be flooding. I mean, they really get down to the very important information that this is how these things can impact your business. So this is where, when you look at all of these elements here, this is what I was talking about, how important business continuity is, because especially with the strategic intelligence, the global weather aspect of it, this is where business continuity plans are so important. When do we activate the plan? Are the plans updated to be able to mitigate risks that are being reported? You know, the tactical intelligence and that aspect of it, where we're putting out just the kinetic alerts, that is more of incident response, the really quick things that you have to do. But the planning aspect around it is, there's nothing worse than being in a situation in a corporate security job and you did not plan for that incident. You didn't have some kind of a plan on how to react. So all that pre-planning, all those things that go into a properly set up corporate security program is very important to be able to respond to these types of things. Martin, or what I would say is, I'm going to turn it back over to Martin, because now what we're going to look at is some of the things that you've learned in the military and some of the things that you've done for additional schooling, how it really helps you transition into these types of positions. And what we did on the next two slides is put together what we thought were the characteristics of what you learn in the military and your additional training, and how we saw that from our folks that are former that are veterans, how it helps strengthen the Alert Media's mission.
Yeah, so kind of starting with the first point there, discipline. The big thing here is just a lot of these points that are listed under here, we've all kind of had training centered around these focuses. So that ability to, that military mindset of remaining calm and disciplined while under pressure, ensuring that you're focused in high stressed environments. It really helps clear decision making. The other thing that's important with that too is just being decisive. Like when you're dealing with a high stress situation, we've seen with great success individuals who are veterans who just, they step up and they make decisions when there's periods of uncertainty, which is great. Also, for structured analysis, really looking at, you know, making sure that we keep things within a, keep things concise, keep things very tailored to what our customers need. That attention to detail is essential for any sort of these positions where you're having to especially give information to others, making sure that information is accurate, making sure that information, like I said, is concise and really consumable for whoever is going to be looking at it. And then, of course, the mission first mindset, especially in this discipline, is essential because as we know, this type of work, you're directly impacting the safety of uh, individual employees and of physical locations and of the brand overall. So having that that critical mission first perspective always ensures that you're minimizing how many errors occur in anything, and also enhancing the reliability of the intelligence that you're providing. um, Jeff, I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
No, I just want to say, I think you can see these things that you actually have learned while in the military, how it relates to what you've learned as in your business continuity training. All these things that are very important as you build out plans. Um, we just tend to have a different mindset, as Martin stated, about how to properly plan for the mission. And that this is why when I talked about the importance of preparation, this is where that training that you received really will help companies truly prepare for being very resilient in the way they need to be. Martin, I'll take the next section if you don't mind. I always love talking about leadership and command presence.
Of course.
This is definitely something that the military folks that is working at Alert Media brings. But it really has guided me through my career in different security elements that I've worked in. What you're going to find out is you have a lot of situations that when something adverse happens, everybody gets that deer in the headlights look, and they're looking for somebody to step up and step forward and take command of that situation. With somebody that is calm, can lead them through that uncertainty. That's where that military background really comes into play, where that's how I really have advanced through my career. I tended to become the troubleshooter, or the person that when we had a crisis, I was always the crisis team leader, because of those aspects of what the Marine Corps has taught me about command presence, being that one to be willing to take on whatever is occurring. So that is an aspect that as you come into the corporate world, you're going to see that training that you had around leadership and being calm in a crisis is really going to be something that will really drive your career going forward.
Do you mind if I just add something onto that as well, Jeff?
Yes, please do.
The other thing that I've noticed, especially just from my experience when leading individuals, is that was quite different from the military, and I kind of had to learn to adapt the skill sets that I was taught. Is um, obviously when you're in the military, everybody is trained to a specific standard. We all go through basic training. We go through our MOS schools and are trained specifically how to handle a certain task. And then once we get to our units, we're all aligned within a specific mission, and we all have an understanding of what each other went through to get to that position. The difference, especially in the private sector, is the backgrounds are so diverse. Everybody has different experiences, perspectives, maybe different work experiences related to how they handled crisis at their previous positions. So the one thing that really helped me is really getting to understand the team and how to lead them effectively, how to communicate with each individual. So when you are faced with a time of crisis or a difficult situation, when it kind of what Jeff was saying, leading through periods of uncertainty, you have a really good understanding of who who is best fit to handle what aspect of that situation you're in. So really communicating within your team is essential, especially when you're in a position of leadership. Um, yeah, and that's all I want to add there, Jeff.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Martin, because as Martin stated, in the military, I always called it the rite of passage when you graduate from basic training. But basic training was meant to train everyone to a central mindset. And I always joked in the companies I work for, we should have 13 weeks of basic training for everyone joining the company to get everybody in the right mindset. But that never flew. But I think you can understand what Martin's saying is you have that foundation as a leader, and it's just you have to understand how to utilize that foundation in the corporate world. This next section here on dedication to duty and commitment to mission. This is definitely a mindset if you get into the security world and you're supporting a company either as we said, business continuity, emergency management, crisis management, physical security, any of the security elements. That dedication to duty and commitment has to be there because it is a 24/7 readiness mindset. Things happen at all times of days, all times and all days of the week. Um, it always seems like Friday afternoon is when big crises happen, and you have to be able to be or willing to have that duty before self and that sense of accountability for your company if you're going to be in this t- discipline of being in a corporate security. But that again is something that you definitely have brought or will be bringing with you from your time in the military, because we do have that dedication of duty and that commitment. And that is something that will be highly recognized by companies that you're supporting. You want to take the last one there, Martin?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, this is actually really personal to me as well. That sense of purpose. That was one thing, especially when I was transitioning out, that I. It was one of the things that was bittersweet about leaving the military, is that I felt that very much like I had a sense of purpose when I was serving, and I wanted to maintain that. And I think that this type of work, and specifically working in alert media, I have been able to maintain that, because this work is having a meaningful impact on the individuals that we are supporting, whether it be the employees, as I stated, or their customers, the crisis response teams, giving them the information they need so that they can respond effectively and quickly to protect lives. And it keeps people safe, it keeps people informed, which are, I think, are are very similar to the core principles of military service. Also, specifically speaking to um, the threat intelligence mission, there's also a sense of camaraderie within the teams of being able to say, hey, we're all working together to keep individuals safe. So it really helps morale, at least my individual morale, with doing this type of work. And it also just keeps people focused. It keeps organizations um, committed to both the mission, but more importantly, to each other. And I think as veterans, we can kind of bring that amplified sense of purpose when we join organizations to say, like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how important it is, and it means a lot to me. So I hope then I could spread that around and make it mean a lot to everyone else as well.
Yeah, just to add to that, companies have a legal responsibility for duty of care for their employees. It's a legal responsibility, but those of us that are in this threat intelligence or in security, we take that personally, that we are there for the duty of care of all of our customers, especially when we work at a company like AlertMedia, where we have thousands of customers, and we are sending out alerts that affects millions of employees. One thing that is very difficult, or that is almost impossible for us to quantify, is of those alerts we send out, how many people did we keep out of harm's way? How many people were able to avoid being hurt or having a security situation? How many times did companies were able to mitigate risk because of what we put out and avoid any type of business disruption? Those are things that we hold dearly to ourselves, in that every alert we put out, we know that that's something that could be occurring. Um, that's the sense of purpose, that no matter what discipline within the security world that you're going to go into, that you need to bring with you, is that sense of purpose and mission alignment of whatever company you're supporting. That is basically all we had, and we are open to questions.
Well, I guess I can just say thanks again, Jeff and Martin, for this great presentation. One of the things that we were just discussing, before this was, potentially how do we leverage, AlertMedia, and potentially could we put that on our resumes as transitioning military members? Do you guys offer any additional training?
Very good question. And what I would highly recommend everyone to do is to follow AlertMedia on LinkedIn. If you follow AlertMedia there, we are constantly putting out different types of materials, and whether it is written material, webinars, um, just a lot of different things that you can use to increase your knowledge around these different these different things. The webinars that we do always involve some corporate security people getting their perspectives on different things, and those are definitely training sessions that you can leverage in that respect. I would also like to invite everyone on the call to link up with myself, and I'm going to volunteer Martin as well. Link up with us on LinkedIn, and that way we can help you leverage things that you do learn from AlertMedia by attending these sessions, by reading through the materials that we provide, how you can leverage that as you look for a corporate position. A lot of the other things that we do provide along with this type of training material, these webinars, is a lot of threat information as well. We post on LinkedIn daily threat reports, weekly threat reports. We do an annual threat report. So it will give you more of an understanding of what's really going on in the world, because the things that we do put on LinkedIn are those things that our customers feel are most impactful to them in protecting their corporate environments.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. And anybody else have a question who's not on the stage can feel free to drop that in the chat, and then we can read out the question. But, Martin just keyed in on something that I can identify with is, that sense of purpose and pride, that passion that you have to serve, a higher purpose in your folks. And, I was just saying that anytime that there's a hurricane for Florida, that's my Super Bowl. Crisis communications, emergency management aspect of business continuity is something that I really take pride in. It's the more interesting portion of my job amongst other different many hats that I wear in business continuity. But it's keeping people safe and informed, and then keeping the operations running. You wouldn't think that school closures would have that much of a effect on a bank, but potentially we can't open certain branches and whatnot when we have school closures. So it's all the little small elements that add up to the bigger picture. So I really appreciate leveraging this tool for for our company and similar tools that do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, having that mindset too, and bringing that sense of mission into a company, it quickly gets recognized by the employees of that company that the company really cares for them personally, not just while they're at work, but while they're at home, while they're traveling. And that sense of care really resonates back. I would always say, for example, when I was corporate security at Citrix Systems in Fort Lauderdale, we were a company of about 12,000 employees at our peak. I always said that I had 12,000 people on my security team. And it was because of how we approached security and the company supported the safety and security of the employees that it created a security and safety culture that everyone brought to the table. That is really the thing that when you say about sense of purpose, because those employees are wherever they go, they're going to remember that this company truly cared about me.
Yeah, I think one thing to consider as well with the audience is if you look at what Martin was saying, he kind of identified with AlertMedia and the sense of purpose there. And when you're out there looking for these VC jobs or any kind of job in general, it should be something that you are passionately aligned to. You align with that company. You might go out there and you get the first thing smoking if you're really desperate for making that transition happen. But if you have some time and you've got that leverage, you should try to look at each company and not just look at the dollar sign. Look at, is it going to be a place that I love to work at? Because you're going to spend half your life there. Your half your day is in the working area, right? So why would you want to be miserable half of your life? Do something you love to do with a company that aligns with, just like how you were in the military, you probably really aligned with the identity and the culture that was going on there. Don't just jump into a company where it's all about chasing the metrics and you're trying to make money. It's going to have a big difference on your life. And every day when you wake up, you want to get to the office versus, hey, I got to go to the office today.
Nice. And that's well stated. One of the things that I would highly recommend is you really go to interviews well prepared for the interview. One of the things that I look at negatively is if I'm interviewing somebody for a position and I say, do you have any questions for me? And they say, no, they did not do their due diligence on my company. They did not. You need to go in asking questions, especially if you have the passion to be part of the security organization. Ask very specific questions about the security organization. How well is security supported by the C-suite? What is the appetite for risk at this company? What is, you don't want to become part of an organization just because they need to say they have this in place. You want to be part of an organization that truly has impact. And so really be prepared with those questions about the security organization. And what's really nice is because there's so much information on the internet right now that you can go out and look to see how big is their security team, who is on their security team, what's their backgrounds, where they are they been security a month and they were previously, just something else, or did they really evolve through their career? So those are those kinds of things that if you go in a good security interview, they will recognize the passion that you have and what you can bring to that team.
Jeff, you bring up a good point there, because I think something that I observed across the industry, especially with the way that things are going these days in corporate America, a lot of people are getting laid off. And, one of the first places they look to do that is those P&Ls, and business continuity is generally viewed as a loss because it's not a revenue generating vertical. So if you look at the organization and why they need BC at that time, that's something that you might want to ask. And what's the legal regulatory? It's kind of like professional practice one. Why do you need a BC program? If you've got a legitimate reason there, you're not out there trying to fight and make stories for why your BC program should be kept. You're a requirement. Like Keith's over there, happy as a clam because he doesn't have to worry. You got the FFIEC. But me, I'm selling some stories over here in the railroad.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, that was another great point, in that a well-built corporate security program is not looked upon as a cost center. And I know early in my career, we constantly fought that we were always looked at as a cost center. And when things were going really good and real smooth, they would cut the security budget. And I'd ask, why are you cutting my budget? Because nothing's happening. Do you think nothing's happening because we got a good security organization? But when things do happen, the budget goes up. You don't want that seesaw back and forth. A good security program does create a culture where employees are willing to stay with that company, which is a cost savings. A good program, especially business continuity, that can keep operations up and running and continuing to make where that company can make money, that is a cost avoidance. So there's different ways that security contributes to the success of a company. We even got to the point where we had such a robust security program in place that we would be marketing that to potential customers to let them know, your information is safe with us. Your assets are safe with us. We have a continuity program in place that we're very resilient. So those are the things that you really want to look to when you go to a company, rather than just fill in a slot until, as was stated, they make cuts.
Yeah, it looks like we have a question from Isaiah saying, which military leadership traits have been most valuable in your private sector success, and how can veterans best translate those skills when transitioning?
That's a really good question. I actually was just talking to Jeff about this yesterday. Specifically for my role, I think that there's probably 3 of the Marine Corps leadership traits that I've always taken with me, especially in this type of role, and that's training as a team, knowing yourself, seek self-improvement, and then seek responsibility, take responsibility. Those are my kind of big ones that I always think about. Kind of going through them, I'll quickly hit what I meant by each of those. So the big thing that I realized too when getting into the private sector is just the military does a really good job, I would say, of showing you your career path and your route to promotion, and trying to build upon you to make sure that you hit all those, whether it be like for the Marine Corps, you have the line scores, and then you get your fit rep, and you're supposed to always make sure you're building to the next position. Where when you get into the private sector, I feel like a lot of that comes from within. It's all about seeking the next opportunity, really knowing where you need to improve, what you're good at, and then applying, everything, applying yourself to bettering yourself, and then preparing for that next opportunity. It's all going to come from within. Corporations will make sure that they provide you that opportunity, but it's incumbent upon you to really apply yourself and make sure that you're always willing to seek that responsibility, take that responsibility, maybe do things outside of even what like your job title is, to really show like, hey, I'm a team player. It doesn't matter what my role is. I'm going to do what I can to support the team. And then that final portion of like training as a team, specifically just I think within tactical intelligence, and probably for the larger business continuity community is really just making sure we're all on the same page, making sure that we can operate together. So when crises do emerge, we are able to respond quickly and effectively, and we're all able to support each other while ensuring that we're looking out for the safety of everyone. But yeah, that's just my part. I'll let Jeff kind of add his there.
That was well stated. I will just add to that, as many years as I've been out of the Marine Corps, the 13 years that I spent in the Corps, I have to say, the older I get and the more experiences that I have with different companies, the more I realized what the military has created in me, a foundation that I reach back to constantly. And I know each military branch has their foundational leadership principles, traits, whatever, but the Marine Corps 11 principles and 14 traits. I mean, I carry that with me. I carry them and reflect on those all the time, because that is the foundation that I have as a leader, and it's carried me forward. And the principles that Martin mentioned, all of them reflect to how you can really take your career and go forward with it, and it will be quickly recognized that you are leaders, and especially leaders in the field that you choose. The fact that you all sought business continuity training on your own and to be certified, that's exactly what Martin was talking about. That's what, like, me as a corporate security director, that's what I would be looking for individuals. What are you doing on your own to enhance who you are? Are you a member of ASIS? Are you seeking certified protection professional, or some of the other, you all just received other certifications? Those are the things that are so important, and it will put you heads above others who are expecting to be spoon-fed. And that's where the military teaches you differently than some of the other folks that you're going to be competing against. Is you don't expect to be spoon-fed. You're going to go out and seek it yourself.
Yeah, like when you talk about like the leadership principles and everything, it's kind of one of those things you don't see in a lot of corporate settings, is these robust leadership trainings that you have in the military, where you've gone to like a 6-week course and it was just about how to lead and all the principles behind leadership. They don't really have that. You might get a day or two in some corporate bars. You might not get it at all. It's kind of just like mentorship through the space. So you'll find a lot of people that have that deficiency in that ability. I was doing an interview a while back. It kind of reminded me of the team of teams thing, or like the team lead as a team, right? Cross-functional leadership is one of the big things in business continuity. So you have to be able to get people to do stuff that they don't want to do. You've got to be able to communicate the value in it and make them believe that it's something that they want to do or that it's beneficial to them. Versus in the interview that I did with this guy, he said, I'm just going to put him up on the metrics and blast him in front of the boss. That's not team leadership. That's not going to leverage your program in the way that it needs to go. It's not going to get the right kind of culture in that establishment. But as military members and leaders, we know how to get someone to do something, motivate them, and give them that purpose and direction. And if you can leverage that and you can communicate that ability, it's going to set you apart from those peers. When you get in that interview and they say, hey, what if you got a person that says, I can't meet you? Like, how are you going to leverage that? You think about all the ways that you've leveraged something in the past to get someone to do something, work around and find out what the problem is. Like, there's a lot of different things that and you have those skills that other people just don't answer like you would.
Well said.
Lewis, you've been kind of quiet over there. Is there anything that you want to add on to the conversation? And you're on mute.
All right, sorry. I thought my little control was
No worries.
able to turn it on. So I think they said like 99% of the things. So I'm trying to do devil's advocacy. But even then, there's talking points of like what not to do. I would just capitalize on preparedness. I think in my experience when helping out people and mentoring them, they don't go multiple levels deep of, hey, what's an organization's, culture? What are they seeking for? and then asking those like, well, why are they like that? What are they responding to? Is it because they have a consent order? Is it because they had a black swan or brown swan event and they're just being reactive, which was again mentioned. By knowing that your acronym galore, right? You're utilizing your OODA loop or utilizing your planning process of what's going to happen next. And I mean, everyone's pretty much covered everything that I would. So,
well, thanks
I
for that.
I think one of the things that would be important to bring into an interview too is to look on. Obviously, you want to look on the company's website, but know what their values are, and because most companies will state their values on their website, and then try to understand what those values mean, but then ask about them in an interview. How well does the company truly embrace the values that they state? Because a lot of I've worked for companies that they state things that is really not was not the culture of the company. So those are the things that are good to look at as well. But you bring up things about what not to do. You've got to understand that most people that you're going to be interviewing with are going to not be veterans. I shouldn't say most, but there's going to be occasions that you're not interviewing with veterans. They're not going to understand certain things. I was joking with Martin that when I was getting out of the Marine Corps and I was interviewing for positions, I was asked the question, well, did you ever have a real job? Because they thought as a Marine, all I did was carry a rifle and that was it. They didn't understand that, I was responsible for running a counterintelligence team. There was budgets, there was personnel issues, there's logistics, all the different things that businesses have to deal with. We dealt with in the military. So you have to be prepared for that, in that you may get some of those types of questions, and how do you answer those questions? But also, you got to be prepared to convert military lingo into civilian lingo. And I didn't have the benefit of AI or Chat GPT, but Martin brought that up to me the other day, that it's a great way to say, if you wrote your resume in military lingo, ask Chat GPT to convert it into a civilian lingo and get to understand. Martin brought up a very good point when he was looking for a position. Is he sought out, what did I do in the military and how does it relate in the corporate world? What are the different elements that I can apply for, that I can utilize the training I did in the military? Because I got to tell you, even if you, like in the Marine Corps, infantry is 0311. If you were 0311, there are so many things you learned in the infantry that easily relates over into many different disciplines in the corporate world. And you just have to understand that and not pigeonhole yourself to what you think you're limited to.
Yeah, all great points. And I think that a lot of great things that can give a lot of confidence for military members transitioning is the soft skills. Nobody really talks about those. And then also our discipline, like when you hire a military veteran, they're going to show up on time. I mean, most of us, I can't
Yeah.
speak for all of the military, but most of us are going to show up on time. We're going to go above and beyond on delivering. We're not going to say, well, that's not my job, but we'll say, yeah, I can take that on. I think, we can do things outside of our roles and be a team player. But, it's those soft skills that really make the big differences. It's that intrinsic value. When you ask somebody to do something, you don't just ask them to do it. You establish a rapport with these people. And then, you ask them, hey, if can we get you to do that? And they're like, sure. What else do you need? So it's those soft skills that really carry you pretty far, that I've learned, throughout my corporate experience. So,
Yep.
I think, do we have any more questions? If not, I'm going to just say, go around the room, last call. No.
Hey, I got something.
Okay.
All right, this is what we were talking about on the phone before, is that like, if you're an individual that got to a certain rank, senior enlisted, senior warrant officer, chief officer, or senior officer, and you kind of, you put the rifle up and it collects dust, you put the software and you just, your tool your TL weapon becomes your mouth, like you get, I would knock that off and then go back to like, hey, how does these things work? Realize the basics. And, coming from the Marine Corps side of the house, like, how did C2PC work? How does Agile work? How do these things go? Because then when you can understand software, that's another translatable skill when they go into, hey, have you used Everbridge? Have you used Fusion? Have you used Jira? Have you used these things? Because that's also going to be in it. And there are certain organizations that are going to require you to, land on your feet. And if you're going to slow them down by learning something completely new, I mean, here at my bank, I got 200 applications for one position. I'm going to find somebody that knows how to, hits 99% of the requirements. Don't let yourself be that one person that says, oh, I could just give a gab. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't need another person that's just going to be all talk in a meeting and then it's going to make me do the work. So yeah, just roll up your sleeves and get back to, your 1,000 level series work.
Good point.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining the call, and really appreciate everybody's time.
I hope to see a bunch of LinkedIn requests coming in. So I'd be both Martin and I will reiterate that we'd be more than happy to work with you as you transition through. And if you hook up with us on LinkedIn, we can feed you a lot of information that we put out from AlertMedia, so you can continue to learn your and hone your skills.
Are you guys headed down to DRI?
I'm sorry?
Jacksonville? Are you guys headed down to DRI in Jacksonville this year?
The annual conference.
I don't know if what members of the team will be. I do believe AlertMedia will be represented there, but I don't know who actually it's going to be.
That sounds good. Yeah, if you haven't got the military crew on your AlertMedia side, send them over to the booth. See, Keith and I will be running the booth.
Yep,
Shall
we'll
do.
be there.
Shall do. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
everyone.
everyone. All right, bye.